Single Dad's amazing discovery. His new babysitter was the CEO's daughter in disguise. Mike stared at the pile of bills threatening to overtake his kitchen table. The weight of looming deadlines pressed down on him like a heavy hood. He glanced at the clock, knowing he needed to get to the garage soon, but first, he had to sip his cold coffee and summon the energy to wake Lily. Every day felt like a relentless grind. Working with stubborn engines and a staff that barely spoke to him left little for warmth. He simply wanted to give Lily a life that sparkled, but cracks had started to show, and with each late notice, he felt his grip on that dream slipping away. "Mornin', pumpkin." He tried, forcing a smile into the lukewarm air of their modest home. Lily burst into the kitchen, her wild curls bouncing energetically as she giggled. For a moment, everything felt right. But then reality crashed back. He wasn't just a dad, he was a single dad, barely keeping things afloat. As he hurriedly tied his work boots, dread filled his chest. His solution, bringing in a babysitter, loomed like a dark shadow, one he had resisted for weeks. Reluctantly, he had hired a college student named Megan. She arrived promptly, and her easy smile felt like a breath of fresh air. At that moment, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of relief as he handed her the reins for the evening, but as he left, doubt flickered in the back of his mind. Was he sacrificing time with Lily for a few extra hours in the garage? How could he trust someone else to care for her? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As nights turned into weeks, Megan became a staple in their lives. Laughter echoed in the corners of the house, brought on by board games and mores in the backyard. Mike found joy in their camaraderie, but behind that joy skittered uneasiness. As he shared tales of cars and greasy hands, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was scratching the surface of something deeper. What was Megan hiding? The easiness of her persona felt like a mask, hiding stories of privilege he could never imagine. The revelation at the hardware store felt like an explosion. She was the CEO's daughter. How had he let himself get close to someone who floated above the worries of people like him? Anger flared inside him, mixing with feelings of inadequacy. His knuckles whitened as he clenched the shopping cart handle. He had let down his guard, built a connection, and now, like glass breaking, trust lay shattered. In the moments that followed, he wrestled with his emotions. Could they go back to the way things were? Or was this the moment the rift between their worlds would swallow them whole? At that instant, as he stood frozen in disbelief, Lily tugged at his shirt, her familiar blue eyes sparking with life. It was a reminder of what truly mattered: family, connection, love. But doubt twisted inside him. Could he ever look at Megan the same way again? The tension surged, creating a chasm Mike could feel widening, ready to swallow them both whole. Mike's mind whirled as he sat motionless in the staple aisle of the hardware store, breathing in the scent of fresh lumber mixed with the faint tang of metal tools. His heart raced with confusion. He had opened himself up to Megan, a connection he had begun to cherish, yet in a heartbeat, everything had changed. The laughter shared over pizza, the stories exchanged late into the evening, now felt tainted by a sudden knowledge that gnawed at his very core. Megan? Lily's small voice broke through his turbulent thoughts, pulling him back to the present. She was peering up at him, confusion mirrored on her face. Can we go back home? I want to see Megan. The innocence in her plea pierced through his anger, sharpening his sense of responsibility. He couldn't let his issues cloud Lily's enjoyment. She loved Megan, and for that reason alone, Mike knew he couldn't cast her aside. But was that enough for him to draw nearer, to mend the frayed threads of his trust? As the car rumbled back home, an unshakable decision started to form within him. He would confront Megan about her secret. Clarity began to dawn on him. perhaps understanding her background could shift his perspective, allowing him to see her as more than just the daughter of a CEO. Maybe she had her own struggles, hidden under an air of privilege he could only speculate about. Upon entering the house, a warmth filled the air, remnants of the mores still lingering as Lily rushed to grab a few leftover marshmallows. Mike steadied his breath, resolving to have an open discussion despite the waves of doubt crashing over his resolve. "Megan, can we talk?" he called softly, finding her in the living room, engrossed in a book with a merry smile that suddenly seemed out of place. Her gaze shifted upward, and at that moment, he saw not just the CEO's daughter but a young woman, perhaps vulnerable in ways he hadn't considered. "Sure," she replied, setting her book aside, her tone light, yet something in her eyes hinted at the gravity that was about to unfold. Mike gestured towards the small kitchen table, feeling the familiar weight of his heart thump with each step. As he sat down, he wrestled with the words. "I ran into someone today, someone who mentioned your family." His voice trembled slightly, an involuntary expression of the turmoil residing within him. Megan's expression faltered, that instant revealing a glimpse of the depth behind her carefree front. "I didn't mean for you to find out like that," she finally replied, her voice a whisper, raw and bare. "I wanted to get to know you and Lily, not just be seen as the CEO's daughter." Mike felt a flicker of understanding ignite within him, illuminating the chasms he feared had grown too wide to bridge. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question came out sharper than intended. I thought it would change things," she admitted, her eyes glistening with a vulnerability he hadn't expected. As they spoke, layers began to peel away from both sides. Mike realized that distrust kept him shackled, inhibiting his growth as a father, as a man willing to embrace new connections. Megan's admission reflected her own battles, navigating her identity separate from her father's power. In that moment of honesty, he was compelled to reconcile his feelings. Could he allow Megan to be part of their lives without the specter of status influencing their bond? The longer they conversed, the more Mike questioned his preconceived notions. This was an enormous decision, one that carried the weight of opening his heart to an unexpected friendship that could ripple through his and Lily's life. As the hour passed, the air shifted, replacing tension with possibility, but outside, the storm clouds gathered, mirroring the uncertainty that still danced within him. Would he step out of his comfort zone, allowing both of their worlds to intersect more profoundly than he had imagined? He sat back, a decision looming, realizing he was on the brink of something momentous. "What if we tried starting fresh?" he proposed, testing the waters of his new sense of resolve. Knowing that with this shift came challenges he hadn't yet faced, just then, a loud crash echoed from the direction of the garage, pulling him into the harsh reality of their life once again. What had he signed up for? The commotion called for action, and his unease reformed into determination. The moment for clarity might soon be eclipsed by the reality of their everyday struggles. This newfound connection with Megan would not be easy, but perhaps this was a step toward a more significant lesson in trust and vulnerability. As he dashed towards the garage, a burning question lingered in the back of his mind. Could he face whatever challenges lay ahead without losing sight of the connection he was building with both Megan and Lily? The echo of the crash reverberated in his ears as Mike burst into the garage, the adrenaline rapidly overriding his thoughts of Megan. Boxes lay strewn across the concrete floor, and beneath them, Lily's small frame emerged, her face twisted in surprise. The cause of the disturbance was revealed: a broken shelf that had toppled over, spilling tools and trinkets onto the ground. "Lily!" he exclaimed, rushing to her side. "Are you okay?" Relief washed over him as she nodded, though he could see her eyes welling with tears. The shock of the noise had been enough to frighten her, and in that moment, Mike felt his resolve strengthen. As a father, he had to prioritize her emotional safety above all else, even above the complicated feelings swirling within him regarding Megan. "Let us clean this up together," he said, forcing a calmness into his voice. They began to pick up the scattered items, and as they worked, Mike couldn't shake the lingering gravity of the earlier conversation. His mind drifted to the truths he had unearthed about Megan, the lessons of vulnerability that echoed enticingly despite the chaos. Back inside the house, as they gathered for dinner, Lily's giggles mingling with the aroma of spaghetti, Mike felt a simultaneous warmth and chill course through him. They couldn't let a single moment of unease overshadow their lives. He glanced toward Megan, who prepared the table with an effortless grace that belied the complexity he had seen just hours earlier. How had he misjudged her so completely? As they sat down, he contemplated how his perception of privilege had clouded his vision for so long. The elegance with which she navigated their shared reality revealed her strength, while her admission of wanting to break free from the binds of her status painted a different picture, one of a young woman grappling for authenticity just like him. "I think we need to redefine what this means for all of us," he eventually said, looking both at Lily and Megan. The words felt heavy but necessary. "If we're going to move forward, I want us all to be honest with each other." Megan met his gaze, her expression morphing from surprise to understanding. "I want that too," she responded softly. "I'm here because I genuinely care about both of you. I brought my whole self to this, wanting to weave my life into yours, not because of who my father is, but as a friend." The sincerity in her words wrapped around him like a warm blanket, dispelling some of his lingering doubts. Could he really embrace this complicated friendship, while simultaneously cultivating a bond with Lily that remained untarnished by the complexities of the adult world? But beneath that understanding, Mike felt a rising tide of fear that the challenges he faced as a father would clash with his desire to connect with Megan, and that the entanglements could inevitably lead to heartache. He questioned how much courage he truly possessed. As dinner wound down, an idea began to form. They would tackle tasks as a team, activities that would merge their worlds as partners and allies. "Let's start with a project," Mike suggested. "Something we can all participate in." "What do you mean?" Lily asked, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. Megan raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What kind of project?" The thought unfolded in Mike's mind. It would not only serve as a testament to their newly forged alliance but would also help them understand each other better, to bridge gaps of unspoken expectations and fear. A small renovation in the house, perhaps, a way to create a shared space. Just then, the doorbell rang, piercing the momentary calm. "I'll get it," Mike said, standing abruptly as his heart raced again, uncertainty spilling over like the remnants of the spaghetti dinner. A single glance exchanged between him and Megan spoke volumes about the tenuous trust they were still attempting to build amidst the storms they each faced. That he opened the door to find a figure shadowed against the evening light, a familiar face hovering beneath a heavy scowl, his father. In that instant, Mike felt another layer of complexity pierce through the already thick tension. What had he unleashed by inviting Megan into their lives? An unsettling realization began to dawn on him. Every decision he made now held the possibility of erupting into unforeseen consequences. Would his father's presence force him back into a corner, challenging everything he was working to build with Lily and Megan? The answer lay just outside the door, and perhaps it was time to confront those fears head-on, realizing he couldn't escape the patterns of the past that haunted him. As his father stepped over the threshold, Mike knew the time had come to face the truth, whatever that may look like. The heavy silence hung in the air as Mike's father stepped into the house, his imposing figure casting a shadow that loomed over Mike's newfound resolve. The tension in Mike's chest mirrored the sudden drop in the room's warmth. He had avoided his father's judgment for years, opting instead for solitude and the nurturing of his own family, a stark contrast to what he had grown up with. "David," his father said, looking past Mike to where Lily and Megan were seated at the table. His tone held both disapproval and curiosity, a cocktail of emotions that Mike had long since learned to navigate, albeit uneasily. "Dad, this is Megan," Mike introduced, his voice steady but filled with an urgency he couldn't quite conceal. "She's going to be staying with us for a while. And from your father's perspective, how is that working out?" The question was pointed, aimed squarely at Mike's decision to involve Megan in their lives. Mike felt a prickle of resentment at the implication that he was incapable of making the right choices for his family. Megan remained poised, her expression unflinching as she recognized the dynamic at play. "It's going well," she replied with calm conviction. "We're embarking on a project together." A little renovation work to create a space that feels like home. The emphasis she placed on home caught Mike off guard. Was she trying to diffuse the tension? Or was it an unintentional affirmation of the unity they were trying to build? Either way, it tugged at the core of his intentions, revealing both his determination and vulnerability. Renovation. And what exactly makes you think that's a good idea? His father's tone dripped with skepticism, eyes narrowing. Because we want to create a place where we can all feel comfortable and connected, Mike shot back, frustration sharpening his voice. Something healthier for Lily and for ourselves. The subtle tremor in Mike's determination emerged against the voice of authority that reverberated in his ears from years of disapproval. He was striving for clarity and empathy amidst the distorted narrative played out by his father's expectations. Was embracing vulnerability a choice he could stand by, or would it dissolve under the scrutiny of external criticism? Lily, sensing the palpable tension, spoke up with a child's innocence. Can we have a garden too? I want to plant flowers. Her enthusiasm cut through the charged atmosphere, a reminder that innocent dreams often shine brightest when faced with shadows. Of course, Lily, Mike said, a spark of warmth igniting within him. A garden sounds perfect. His father's expression softened momentarily, but the skepticism returned almost immediately. You really think you can handle all this? Do you have any idea how much work it will take? Ambient noise in the background became a mere echo as Mike confronted the truth of it all. Yes, Dad, I do. But I also understand that work is worth doing if it means building something that lasts. The air crackled with the weight of his declaration, leaving the table in heavy stillness. Mike felt like he was stepping firmly onto unknown terrain, where he had a chance to redefine his relationship with both his father and Megan and, most importantly, to Lily. Let's just see how it goes, Mike added, his voice embodying a resoluteness that surprised even him. This instinctive choice to embrace risk felt pivotal. He sensed that breaking the cycle of doubt and disappointment could bring transformation, not only to his relationships but to himself. I'm proud of you for trying, Megan said, and those words resonated deeply, reinforcing a connection that was still fragile but growing strong. Yet shadows of uncertainty creeped back in. What if his father's resistance to change threatened their collective progress? What if, despite the initial cooperation, the old patterns resurfaced, igniting conflict? As Mike turned his attention to the future, the horizon began to take shape. There was a project to foster, a family dynamic to cultivate, and a deep-seated desire to rise above the weight of expectation. But just as he was about to delve into plans for the renovation, a clear and piercing thought rang out: he was about to confront his father's influence head-on. Perhaps it's time for us to start having honest conversations, Dad, Mike ventured, uncertainty lacing his words. Maybe we can start by discussing what it means to support each other in the first place. With a deep breath, he faced his father, ready to expose the vulnerabilities that had long been hidden, both as a son and as a man defined by his choices. Whatever your opinions are, this new chapter is about all of us. And I won't let anyone dictate what my family needs anymore. As he spoke, Mike realized that this moment of truth might just be the turning point he didn't know he had been waiting for, but the question lingered, gnawing at the edges of his resolve: could he sustain this newfound clarity and expression, or would the comfort of his father's cynicism crush it before it fully bloomed? What awaited him in this confrontation could change everything for better or for worse. The air remained thick with unspoken tensions after Mike's bold proclamation, a tightness that seemed to constrict him both physically and emotionally. He could feel the weight of his father's gaze, laden with disbelief and a simmering discontent. Each moment stretched into eternity as he awaited some form of response, any indication that the world might shift in favor of his stance. To break the uncomfortable silence, Mike's mind raced back to his childhood home, a place often overshadowed by strict expectations and rigid routines. His father's presence had been a constant reminder of inadequacy, the careful words of praise often mixed with criticism. Constructing a life outside that influence had felt like carving mountains with a spoon. Honest conversations? His father echoed, the incredulity in his voice laced with a hint of mockery. What exactly do you think you can accomplish with that? Do you truly believe that discussing feelings will alter decades of instilled habits? Just as hope began to falter, Megan stepped in, her calm demeanor offering him a tether to stability. It's a start, David. Sometimes the mere act of talking can illuminate areas we're blind to. We all have our histories, but dwelling on them indefinitely serves no one. Mike marveled at how she handled the situation, the way she artfully shifted the focus back to constructive dialogue. Conversations like this hadn't been a part of his upbringing. He had watched others articulate their feelings freely, but the practice felt foreign, an uphill battle against ingrained expectations. Maybe it's about letting go, Mike asserted, daring to add his voice again. Letting go of the past doesn't erase it. Instead, it allows us to create something new. He caught Lily's eye as she remained fixated on the small drawing in front of her, a piece of glittery paper she was transforming into a garden of dreams. His father's brow furrowed, revealing deeper concerns beneath the surface. But that's just it, Mike. You don't understand. Life isn't about creating fairy tale endings. It's about survival, about making the hard choices that keep us standing. You're indulging whims instead of dealing with reality. The stark truth of his father's assertion cut deep. Survival, what had he done to survive? He had run away from harsh truths, avoiding conflict in hopes of nurturing something tender and genuine. Yet here he was, choosing to confront the harshest truths, shunning old patterns. Was he prepared for the potential fallout? A swirling mix of determination and fear settled within him. I'm not indulging anything. I want something real, something that moves our family forward instead of keeping us shackled to a past that no longer serves us. The faintest crack in his father's armor appeared as the older man shifted in his seat, uncertainty flickering across his features. Perhaps it was a realization that Mike had taken ownership of his path, an upheaval of the status quo his father represented. Megan leaned slightly closer to Mike, her hand brushing against his in subtle encouragement. He felt the surge of her support reinforcing him, grounding his rising doubts. David, the renovation project we're embarking on isn't just about physical changes. It's symbolic, an opportunity to redefine how we interact with each other and the home we create together. The corners of his father's mouth twitched, possibly in thought or begrudging acknowledgement, but that was when Mike felt a sudden rush of adrenaline, a critical moment, teetering on the edge. Can you see it, Dad? A garden, those flowers, Lily's laughter. It's not just about us trying to fit into old molds. It's challenging ourselves, challenging each other. As he spoke, clarity set in. He was not just advocating for a physical renovation. The manner in which they would communicate also needed construction, and evolution of dialogue rooted in respect and honesty. But what stood before him was not merely a simple family project, it was a fundamental shift in their collective narrative. Mike was choosing collaboration over confrontation. Engagement over avoidance. His father's silence felt pregnant with possibilities. Could Mike's father agree to this new venture, or was the creature of tradition too deeply entrenched to allow for any transformation? The juxtaposition of his dream and the potential for his father's rejection loomed ominously. In that case, Mike's father finally said, resolving the silence. Let us see how this bold idea unfolds, but understand this, I will watch you, from a distance, as you attempt to build this, garden or whatever you choose to call it. But know that I have my reservations about the choices you're making, especially if they end up being a waste of time. Just then, Mike's heart raced as he felt both apprehension and a flicker of hope. The foothold on this precarious journey was now solidifying, and yet, looming uncertainties took shape. The prospect of defying his father's doubts brought an electrifying resolve. Yet, would it be as simple as that? Could he truly carve out a nurturing path for his family amidst a history fraught with resistance? Instinctively, he understood that the real challenge now lay ahead. His father's skepticism was just the beginning. Because with each passing moment, as hope flickered like a flame on the verge of ignition, Mike couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Was he ready to confront the ghosts of his lineage once and for all? As he looked around at the assembled hope sitting at the table, one thought persisted: the only way forward was filled with uncertainty, and perhaps, if they embraced vulnerability, they might discover a future they never dared to imagine. Would they emerge stronger or frayed at the seams instead? The stakes were higher than ever. The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the scattered remnants of the night's unresolved conversation. Mike's thoughts buzzed with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. What lay ahead was a daunting renovation not just of their home, but of the emotional landscape he had long navigated with trepidation. In the midst of buttered toast and cereal bowl clinks, the morning routine pulsed with an understated tension. Lily, blissfully unaware of the adult complexities swirling around her, hummed softly as she adorned the fridge with her latest crayon masterpiece. It was a moment he cherished, a snapshot of innocence against a backdrop of fears. "Hey, kiddo," he said, breaking his own spiral of contemplation. "What do you think of helping me with the garden today?" Her eyes sparkled with excitement, her small hands waving as she began to explain her grand vision for flowers in every color imaginable, meticulously interspersed with glitter. The enthusiasm was infectious, igniting a spark he hadn't felt in days. But just as quickly as it ignited, a shadow flickered at the edge of his mind. His father's doubts loomed large. Would he truly be able to swing the hammer of change? Mike found himself caught in a mental loop, contemplating a delicate equilibrium of asserting his newfound convictions while not alienating the very family he sought to unify. Later, in the quiet of his workspace, he pulled out the renovation plans they had drafted together. Each angle addressed, each dimension meticulously calculated, was a stark reminder of the systemic boulders he had to shift. But in attacking the structural issues of their home, he felt it was just as critical to dismantle the emotional barriers forged through years of discontent. He placed his hand on the blueprint, and a wave of determination coursed through him. Conversations, he recognized, would not be easy, nor would they unfold without inevitable pushback. But clarity befell him. Confronting those barriers was not merely a task. It was a responsibility not just to himself, but to Lily, to make the space flourish not just physically but emotionally. With an unexpected surge of purpose, Mike decided to take Megan's suggestions one step further. They had spoken of events fostering communication before, and he maybe had the perfect opportunity on the horizon. "Dad, tonight," he announced, determining to set the stage for deeper dialogue. "Can we invite everyone over for dinner? I'd like to share the plans with you about the garden and how everyone can contribute." His father's raised eyebrow mirrored his initial skepticism. "Is that your plan? To gather us all around like some community potluck?" "Yes, Dad, just like that, only instead of food, the focus will be on building something real together," he affirmed. The corner of his father's mouth twitched again, this time in consideration. But before Mike could lose momentum, he pressed on, aware that the mere existence of doubt now fueled his resolve. "Maybe it isn't just a potluck I'm proposing. It's a conversation. A chance for us to lay down a foundation for a home that isn't only full of rooms and walls but understanding and growth." The ghost of uncertainty faded further, replaced by swirling images of laughter and collective effort. Underneath the scorching gaze of motivation, a new thought wormed its way into the cracks of his mind. What if, beneath the dining table, truths lay hidden, vulnerabilities shared in the sacred space of togetherness that could ultimately release profound change? As he set about making call after call, inviting neighbors and extended family, Mike captured Lily's excitement, a pertinent reminder of the stakes involved. Could this garden symbolize their evolution, or would it serve as just another failed dream buried beneath old cement? Dinner arrangements, still fresh in his mind, vanished quickly as another thought relentlessly emerged. It was not merely bricks and mortar he was mulling over, but a challenge that demanded he excavate family history, lay bare the scars left unchecked. The revelations that awaited might either collapse his carefully built attempts at togetherness or serve as the catalyst desperately needed for metamorphosis. By dusk, as the last of the calls formed a web of initial connections, Mike experienced a jarring realization. His father's acceptance might not be forthcoming without the critical confrontation he had long dreaded. The thought rattled him: was he truly prepared for this? With dinner plans set and the nervous energy swirling in anticipation of tonight's raw discussions, Mike felt a measure of resolve building once more. Because the real garden neared not one of mere flowers, but a field of voices. The time had come to face not just his father but the past that watered their familial soil with regret. Deep down, he comprehended the gravity of it all, contrasting doubt with hope could unbind the strongest reins of emotional inheritance. In that affirmation of faith, a question resonated. Would they brave the fragility of truth, or would ghosts of the past rise again inviting familiar chaos? The clanking of pots and pans echoed through the house, each sound blending into the rhythm of a turbulent heart. As Mike stood at the stove, whisking together sauce for the pasta, he could feel the tension simmering beneath the surface. Each ingredient added was another layer of a web he was weaving, a meal meant to gather, to connect, to heal. But with every stir, his thoughts spiraled deeper into uncertainty. Tonight's dinner had morphed into more than just a family gathering, it was a potential turning point. He glanced at the clock, its relentless ticking serving as both a countdown to hope and a reminder of the impending confrontation. What if his father took offense? What if Lily stood confused amidst the turmoil? These worries wrapped around him like a vice. "Daddy, it smells good." Lily's bright voice cut through his fog of dread, and he turned to see her peering into the sauce pot, her eyes twinkling. For a fleeting moment, that innocent joy washed over him, illuminating the shadows of doubt. "Thanks, kiddo. You know what makes it even better?" he replied, forcing a smile that felt brittle. "Having you help me set the table." As they arranged mismatched plates and forks, each piece a testament to the time they had spent together, Mike felt the weight of the evening press down on him again. They were soon to host a mix of relatives, from the amicable to the sometimes belligerent, each with their own baggage. He and Lily exchanged a few giggles as they misplaced items purposely, an exercise in lightheartedness that reminded him of the purpose for their home to be more than wood and drywall. The first knock cut through the layered anticipation. Moments later, his brother John was there, arms laden with an overflowing basket of bread. "Hope you have plenty of wine to go with this." His teasing tone barely concealed an undercurrent of concern, and Mike felt a stoic resolve rise to meet him. "Just in time," Mike replied, appreciating John's presence. "I could use a hand with the drinks." Together, they moved to the kitchen, engaging in superficial banter while Mike's mind swirled with the reality that lay ahead. As more family trickled in, a swell of anxiety bubbled within him. Each laugh felt like a drumroll, heralding the moment when he would address the true purpose of tonight, digging into the weeds of their familial history, navigating through the emotions that had long been buried. "Hey Dad, you're just in time," Mike called out, his voice steadying somewhat as he spotted his father entering. "From the looks of it, we should start a bakery instead of a garden," his father quipped as he waved the irony through the room. But beneath the humor, Mike could sense a veil of tension draped over them, a conditioning that lingered from years past. Once everyone settled, and the meal began, Mike took a deep breath. It was now or never. "Thanks for coming. Tonight, I wanted us to talk more than just about old times like the ones where we break bread and go our separate ways." His father's gaze sharpened, and he braced himself. What if he failed to convey the necessity of unity they needed? What if this attempt at connection failed at the moment it was most crucial? As his heart thundered in his chest, Mike discovered an unsettling truth within himself. He was finally ready to confront not just his father but his own part in this family drama. The garden, inches away from life and growth, mirrored their collective potential. With the conversation pouring around them, Mike's fingers danced nervously over the table. It was a boundary, this dialogue. Could he lead his family toward understanding or watch them fracture once more beneath the weight of resentment? The flicker of his father's gaze told him more than words could express. Before them lay not just past grievances but a horizon of possibility. "Dad," he ventured, feeling the years of history press into that moment. "What if we drop the past and start anew?" The question hung in the air, charged with the weight of fear and hope. Would they be willing to till the ground of their relationship? To face the deep roots that needed prying, or would they retreat back into silence, burying the truths beneath layers of unresolved conflict. The air thickened, and Mike felt that this was the moment decisions made could either dismantle or rebuild their home, the garden they yearned for. But could he prepare himself for the revelations awaiting that night? Would his father's response nurture growth or weed out everything he hoped to achieve? The silence that descended around the table was palpable, an unseen weight pressing down on them all. Mike's heart raced, each beat drumming a frantic rhythm in his ears. He searched his father's face for a sign, any sign, of openness. Instead, he found only the shadow of resistance, the familiar set of his jaw that had been so often referenced as stubbornness over the years. Start anew. His father echoed, skepticism lacing his tone. Mike felt the breath he had been holding slip from his lungs. You think it's that easy? To just forget everything and pretend we're some perfect family? The word stung, igniting a spark of anger mixed with despair. Mike straightened in his seat, trying to summon the calm he had so carefully cultivated. I'm not asking us to forget. I want us to face it together. We've been carrying this weight for too long. His mother, usually the peacekeeper, shot him a warning look. Now's not the time, Mike, she said softly but firmly. The tension created an invisible barrier between him and the very individuals he had hoped to unite. Don't you see? He pressed, desperate to break through the suffocating atmosphere. This is the time. If we keep dancing around these problems, we'll never be the family we want to be. The room felt smaller, the echoes of unspoken feelings reverberating around them. Lily, sensing the shift, looked between her father and grandfather, her innocent world threatened by the storm brewing over the dinner table. Mike's heart twisted at the thought of dragging her into their conflicts, yet he realized that this was also about creating a stable, clearer path for her future. I'm tired of avoiding the difficult conversations, Mike continued, his voice barely above a whisper but charged with fervor. I want us to be whole again, to feel like we belong together, not as strangers who just meet over meals. His father's eyes narrowed, retreating into a familiar fortress of silence. But within the depths of that stillness, Mike caught glimpses of turmoil, a flicker of consideration, a brief moment of uncertainty. Then prove it, his father finally challenged, a sneer creeping into his tone. What can you show us that will convince me, or anyone at this table, that the past doesn't repeat itself? The challenge hung in the air, a gauntlet thrown down before him. Mike clenched his fists beneath the table. I can be the son you want me to be. The father Lily deserves. But this takes work on all our parts. He now saw clearly, his static nature would not coax a response. He needed to become the catalyst for change in his own life, to model the very vulnerability he demanded from the rest. As conversations resumed around him, with laughter and lightheartedness attempting to rebuild the air of warmth that had fled, Mike felt a new determination surge within. He was no longer merely a participant in this family drama but an agent of transformation. That evening sparked something profound in him, a realization that the path to healing must start within. He needed to establish his own growth before he could hope to inspire change in others. Yet, even as the meal continued, Mike grappled with the implications. How would he find the strength to influence his father? What strategies would he employ to bridge the gap between their generational differences? For the first time, he felt a tension that was not entirely wrought from apprehension, but rather a burgeoning sense of purpose. The revelations of the evening lay heavy yet enticing. They promised a pathway to healing he'd never before dared to approach. As the plates were cleared away, Mike's mind spun with plans, and he caught himself dreaming of rigorous family dialogues, perhaps even professional therapy as an option. Yet, the fears lingered. Would his father accept this new approach? Eyeing Lily, who was already engaging in a light-hearted debate about dessert with John, he understood one fundamental aspect: there could be no genuine progress without acknowledging their histories. Dad, Mike ventured once more, this time an ember of hope sparking in his chest. Let us take the first step together. What if we start family sessions and share our feelings, openly? Was he ready to lead his family down this path of vulnerability? Would they embrace the tumult of truth, or retreat once again into silence? With uncertainty chilling his resolve yet igniting a flicker of hope, he leaned back in his chair, ready to sway the tides of their shared history and to explore the deep roots that continued to bind them. The decisions he made next would define not just his relationship with his father but reshape his very self. Could he transform not just the family dynamic but his own identity in the process? The vision of the garden lingered in his mind, an emblem of growth waiting to burst forth from the soil once treated with care if only he could navigate the upcoming landscape of emotions. As the evening wore on, Mike's thoughts trailed back to the conversation he had just initiated. A part of him felt exhilarated, but another nagging whisper of doubt shadowed his excitement. What if his family outright rejected his proposal for family sessions? Pushing that thought aside, he focused on Lily's laughter chiming through the air. If this endeavor could create a more cohesive family unit, it would all be worth it, despite any personal discomfort he might face. Later that night, while tucking Lily into bed, he marveled at how innocent and resilient she was. As he tucked in the corners of her blankets, he felt a surge of responsibility wash over him. She deserved stability. He vowed quietly to himself to unlock the deeper issues that had marred their family dynamics. But how? Could he truly lead this effort? Mike paced the floor in the dim light of the hallway after saying goodnight to Lily. His mind raced with contemplation. Confronting his father had been a breakthrough, albeit a small one. He recalled how his father had dared him to prove his newfound commitment to change. Underneath the stubborn exterior, did he truly wish for reconciliation? Mike thought about his father's tumultuous childhood, one draped in the same silence that had defined Mike's own upbringing. Determined, Mike decided he would embark on this journey regardless of the potential backlash. He knew he needed tools to influence real change. The idea of professional family therapy loomed large in his mind. Would they find a therapist open to navigating the intricacies of their family's past? It had to be someone who could understand the nuances of generational conflict while respecting his father's inviolable facade. By morning, with the sun spilling golden light into his modest kitchen, Mike had a plan forming. He pulled out his phone and began diligently searching for family therapists in the area, reading reviews, and noting down names he thought might be promising. As he scrolled, he stumbled upon an individual specializing in family dynamics that piqued his curiosity. Their credentials resonated with him. It was someone who had successfully navigated a multi-generational clientele, experiencing firsthand the psychological barriers families often erected. While the sun warmed his face, newborn determination brightened Mike's mood. He decided to reach out and arrange a consultation before pitching the idea to his family. If he could secure a therapist's commitment to getting the session started, perhaps it would quell his father's apprehension. At work that day, he found it hard to concentrate, his projects endlessly blurring into a background hum of corporate banter. Despite his best intentions, thoughts of his family continually invaded his focus. He remembered how the walls they had built around him felt like they could crumble at any moment, yet the knowledge that he was taking action fueled him. As he prepared for a long-awaited meeting with his father, he practiced articulating how important this initiative was not just for himself or Lily but for his father as well. The responsibility weighed heavily. He knew the stakes, and they were steep, but what he didn't anticipate was how the meeting would reveal more than just a plea for family therapy. It would unearth transformative potential, hidden scars, regrets, and an underlying desire for connection. When he finally faced his father across their kitchen table, he prepared to wield his knowledge and newfound resolve. His heart pounded not with trepidation but with the fierce hope that he could be the catalyst for them all, a bridge to a better familial future. "Dad," he began, voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing through him, "what if I told you I met someone who could help us?" Little did he know, the response to his suggestion would challenge not only his expectations, but also his understanding of familial love and commitment. With his father's unexplored emotions in play, a confrontation loomed ahead that could reshape everything he believed. Could the honesty he was about to confront reflect a journey worth taking, one that could lead towards uncharted territories of vulnerability and connection? The air crackled with the potential for conflict, inching his family dynamics from unsteady to a transformative threshold. The next evening brought a sense of anxious anticipation as Mike replayed the last conversation about family therapy in his mind. He had suggested that they meet with a therapist specializing in family dynamics, anticipating resistance but hoping for acceptance. His father's face had registered surprise, then skepticism, a predictable reaction from the man who had often equated vulnerability with weakness. The kitchen had become the arena of truth, where the weight of generational patterns pressed down heavily upon them. As Mike stood preparing dinner, his hands fumbled with the pots and pans, a physical manifestation of the swirling emotions within him. Surrounding him were remnants of laughter and the pleasant aroma of home-cooked food, yet a tension lingered in the air like a tempest waiting to erupt. Lily, blissfully unaware of her father's inner turmoil, clutched her crayon-drawn plans for the garden, an emblem of hope, as vibrant as her smile. "Can we plant flowers tomorrow, Dad?" Her spontaneous enthusiasm flickered around them, illuminating the uncertainty nestled within Mike's heart. He smiled, though he felt like a ship at sea, adrift in the waves of anxiety that threatened to consume him. "Dinner's almost ready," he called out, a steadiness returning to his voice as he stirred the sauce bubbling on the stove, its warmth contrasting the chill settling in his chest at the thought of facing his father again. When dinner was finally laid out, the table became a canvas of culinary artistry, yet in Mike's mind, it was also a battleground. He had invited his family for a purpose, a chance to foster acceptance and transform their narrative. Would they unite or fracture? As his father entered the kitchen, the air thickened, each second stretching into eternity. Mike noted the way his father surveyed the room, immediately zoning in on any semblance of conflict awaiting him. But this time, Mike felt grounded. He was no longer the boy seeking approval, he was a man committed to growth and fostering a new sense of family. As they settled for dinner, Mike took a deep breath, bracing himself for the discussion he had envisioned. "Thank you all for coming. He began, but his father's constant skepticism cut through the air. "You once said we'd be better off sticking to our own business, no?" His father's words struck like lightning, but Mike maintained his composure. "I invited you here to change that narrative," he replied with emphasis. "It's time we confronted the real issues standing in the way of our growth. That's why I've been looking into therapy." Silence enveloped them again, echoing the discomfort that crackled beneath the surface. "Therapy?" His father's incredulity rang sharp, but Mike pressed on. "It's not about blame, it's about creating a supportive environment where we can share our feelings openly. We can't expect to grow without understanding the roots of our past." The tension in the room thickened but lingered, with an open invitation for his father to respond. Sparked by both a weary resilience and a burgeoning sense of agency, Mike maintained eye contact. His plea felt like a call to arms, one they had long evaded, and one that could finally change the course of their familial legacy. After an eternity that felt like moments, his father's voice broke through the chill. "And what makes you think that will work? Families that need fixing often spiral further into chaos." "It will work if we commit to it," Mike replied, the firmness in his tone surprising even him. "We've all been carrying our burdens for far too long, quietly penalizing ourselves within our silence. I know I can't change everything overnight, and neither can any of us. But we owe it to ourselves and to Lily for our future. We're already struggling. Let us not make it worse by turning our backs on the chance for growth." Mike's voice quivered with a blend of urgency and vulnerability. This wasn't merely about his father, it was about transformative growth for Lily. She had been slowly inventing a garden, and Mike was determined to cultivate a fertile ground. For her to thrive emotionally as well. Looking between his father and Lily, he saw her innocence shining brightly, underscoring their need for evolution. "Mikey," his father began hesitantly, "son, family isn't so easy. I never learned how to talk about feelings. It was always survival." Mike nodded in understanding, and in that important moment, he realized that pleading for change was not as simple as he had thought. "It's about rebuilding," Mike replied, refusing to back down. "Reaching past what we've known, creating our versions of strength instead of repeating our fears. Let us break those cycles." At that moment, Mike's father shifted slightly, the defenses he had fortified for years showing the slightest fissure. "You seriously believe this will change things?" "I do," Mike stated clearly, his heart pounding with determination. And I'm willing to put in the work to prove it. The words hung suspended, waiting for their fate to unfold. Simultaneously, Mike felt liberating despair mixed with hope. They couldn't stay trapped in cyclical tradition. In that stillness, his father's somber acknowledgement shone through. "Then I guess it's time for us to try," he said finally, resignation lacing his words. Relief flooded through Mike. He had summoned the courage to push through, and now they stood at the precipice of profound change. As they pulled together, Bob's eyes softened as he looked at Lily, who had fallen asleep at the dinner table, evident of the safety she felt amidst their gathering. "All right, let us meet this therapist and see what happens," his father assented slowly, the resistance crumbling as he crossed over into possibility. A weight had been lifted, a shared burden beyond the realm of disconnection. Unfolding in that moment was a chance for growth, for nurturing connections buried under years of silence. "That's a start," Mike breathed, his voice barely above the whisper of newfound hope. A simmering desire to cultivate not just a garden but authentic relationships surged through him, charting a new realm of possibility. As they cleaned up the remnants of dinner, Mike could feel life blooming around them. He resolved to nurture the truth in the days to come. Theirs was a journey fraught with renewal and resilience, and now together, they would move forward into the light of understanding. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but this moment marked the beginning of transformation, a break from the confines of tradition, embracing vulnerability that might one day culminate in unfurling blooms before their very eyes. The garden they cultivated would signify their rebirth, roots would emerge anew in nurturing soil that had long laid dormant. In their triumph of persistence and open dialogue, perhaps they could finally transform the remnants of the past into stepping stones for their future, a canvas on which to paint their evolving family narrative. And with that thought, Mike found solid conviction. He had proved that they could cultivate a boundaryless garden of interconnectedness, uncovering latent roots waiting patiently to spring forth into a reality bathed in trust, understanding, and love. As they stood in the warmth of their kitchen, apprehension melted away. A parallel garden of emotions replaced the fears they had kept for too long. No longer shadows shaped by silence, they had begun the journey toward embracing everything they could become. The future lay ahead, joyful blooms sprouting from nurturing soil. Each dawn promised the opportunity to heal more together, to plant them deeper yet with blooms that would echo laughter and love through their shared lives. Emboldened by the recognition that they did not have to remain tethered to the past, a horizon stretched dramatically before them. All it took was the courage to confront their truth, to pour themselves into the soil they would nurture in one another. His heart pounding in synchrony with newfound hope, Mike took a deep breath. They had crossed over. The choice was made, and together, they would flourish forward. As he turned to meet his father's eyes, he knew the real transformation had begun. Each breath ignited applicable change, and now the garden awaited, the essence of their growth palpable, ready to blossom into personal and familial renaissance. Now, to honor this journey and keep these blossoms thriving, it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories reveling in real-life growth. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these impactful narratives. Comment with your reactions and theories about this profound transformation. We want to hear from you about your journey. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness possibilities for their own personal transformations. You need to show your support and help us cultivate a garden of uplifting stories for all. Don't wait even one more second to share this with the world.